Welcome to Mr. UFC Vegas Fight Club TV. I am Kyle, your host. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC Fight Night 142, Junior Dos Santos versus Tuivasa. We're going to talk about our free play for a little bit. We're also going to get into the best bet play, how you can purchase it, and as well as touch on just a little bit on RDA versus Usman. I'm not a big fan of that card to a betting perspective. We'll be watching it. Do not like it on a betting perspective, but we will touch on that main event as well. But before we do not forget to subscribe, like, head kick the bell icon, get involved with Fight Club TV. It's a growing UFC and gambling channel all in one spot. You can also find me on Wagertalk under Mr. UFC Vegas. Check it out. Everything is down below. If you want to check out past picks, if you want to check out the profile, how you can make purchases on the best bet play, it's all down there in the description, all down below. And as well as, we're doing fantastic on our best bet play so far this year. We're at 70%. We are only picking on our best bet plays only minus 190 and lower, and plus odd guys as well. So it's been fantastic here. We've really been finding out some great value on some of these fighters. Over our last 8 plays, we are 6-2 out of our last 8 plays. And out of those 6 wins, 4 of them were plus odds and underdogs. So we were looking at, out of the 6 wins, 4 of them were anywhere from plus 115 to plus 130, and even our last best bet play was Cynthia Calvillo, which even creeped up to plus 178. And as we talked about in the bet review show, I laid a little bit even more at that odds. So been great hitting these, want to continue it, and again, appreciate everybody who has been making those purchases and who has been supporting the Fight Club TV as well. So first thing I want to talk about here is Dos Anjos versus Usman. I'm not going to touch on this, touch it into a betting perspective, but if you take a look at it, Usman is around a minus 190. You've got Dos Anjos at a plus 250, somewhere around there too, depending where you're shopping it. You know, for me here, I mean, looking at it from just a perspective of who you think is going to win. And I believe Usman can get this victory. I think there's a lot of ways for him to get this victory. I think he's going to be more physical. I think that he can get out there, wrestle. I think that he's doing a lot of great things. He's on a great winning streak. He's a specimen when it comes out to how he looks out there in the cage. But the thing that you got to just take a look at is RDA and his overall skill set. And that's what's pulling me away from this pick and pulling me away from placing money on this pick. Although it's near the minus 300, and this could be something, if I was to do anything on Usman, would maybe be in a parlay and have very small exposure to him. But the odds are just so big for me to place any kind of straight money on him. And the fact that RDA has a chance to win this fight. I mean, there's no doubt he goes out there, and if he stands and he can just stand and strike with Usman over a 5-round fight, I think that there's opportunity for him here, throw some leg kicks, work those combinations. I think it's not a clear-cut win for Usman to go out there. Usman has not faced anybody to the caliber of RDA. And RDA is a well-rounded, crafty veteran that can go up there and get this victory. And at plus 250 or around that you're looking at RDA, I don't think those are bad odds for him. I really don't think they're bad odds. And when I first looked at this fight, and it's just as a, before I looked at this fight, I always like to, again, where I find value. And I think that's a great thing that people do. Even a lot of people do it on the football handicapping side of it. If they say, hey, this team versus this team, you know, Giants versus Dallas, I think Giants should be getting, 7. And all of a sudden they're at 10. Now you're trying to see, dude, is that value? That's definitely value, because you kind of figured you'd be happy at a 7. Or, you're trying to piece it together. So for me here, I was looking at, hey, listen, if Usman is a minus 150, minus 160, I don't think that that's bad. I would look to place money on him. I think that'd be a nice spot. I think there's good value there. But when you're pushing the minus 300, I just don't find much value in Usman in his biggest fight, where it's a big step up for him. Although I do like him, I do think he can win this fight. But again, as a betting perspective, you're trying to risk manage a little bit more here, and I don't think you're winning enough to place money on Usman. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you guys like him? Do you guys gonna be placing money on him? Again, if anything, I would have it in a parlay. That's only really the spot where I look to place money on this fight. I don't really see much value otherwise into this fight, so let me know what you guys think. But we will get into the free play for UFC Fight Night 142, and we're gonna get into is the main event of that card is Dos Santos versus Tuivasa. Now, this fight taking a look at it, when I first looked at this fight or heard it was happening, you immediately start pulling towards Dos Santos. I mean, he's the name, he's the crafty veteran, he's the ex-champion, he's the guy that's fought so many amazing fighters over the last, 8 years of his career. He has fought the elite level heavyweight champions overall. But then you start really taking a look at certain things. Now, I know over the last 8 fights, he's 4-4 over his last 8. He continues to alternate wins and losses. And again, he has fought the who's who of the heavyweight division. So you cannot knock that part of it. But there's also some other things that you got to take a look at. And now the first thing for me here was when you take a look at it with his fight against Stipe Miocic. Now, against Stipe, Stipe is a killer. He's arguably the GOAT of the heavyweight division and a guy that has really pieced together some amazing wins and knockouts of some of the top fighters in the history of the heavyweight division. So, obviously, losing it against Stipe is not a bad part, but it's how he lost. And that's the thing where it starts to veer me a little bit away from Dos Santos in this fight. Now, well, let's maybe get to the next one. So he loses there. Then he fights Ivanov. Now, Ivanov was a fight to me that I thought was just tailor-made for him to go in there, knock him out, dominate, steamroll Ivanov, put in a flashy knockout victory, and come out with something really spectacular for his next fight, for something he can really step up to and a stepping stone for him to come back, get that victory, and move forward. The UFC does not want to bury Dos Santos in any way, but they were giving him a layup there. It was a comeback fight for him. They're finally giving him somebody who was not that good. And Ivanov, his debut, was his debut fight. He was in lower organizations. Yes, he was winning some fights, but fighting pure tomato cans that just a bunch of garbage fighters. And Ivanov is smaller, shorter reach, slower, no technical skills when it comes to standing. And it was a 5-round fight, although yes, JDS did get that victory. It was a decision victory, unanimous decision, but I don't think it was that great at all of a performance. He was actually, I did place a big bet on him. He was a best bet play for me this year. And, I thought it was, a great spot. I said, listen, the odds were, I believe, if I'm correct, around minus 175, somewhere around there. And it was just way too much value for me. I'm saying this should be something that should be minus 300. I love the value here. I'm going to place money on him. But when you take a look at it, he really didn't do too much. I mean, he stood outside, jabbed a lot. He did some damage, but Ivanov, who was literally standing in front of him like his feet were in cement and just standing there and basically allowing the punches to come towards him. He was not doing too much. He wasn't moving around the cage very much. He's very slow. And this was something, again, that Dos Santos should have landed a big bomb that would have ended this fight. And yes, again, it went to a decision and it was a victory for him, but he didn't do much to really highlight that he is Junior Dos Santos, an ex-champion against a guy who's debuting in the UFC. This should have been a steamroll victory, and it wasn't. So for me, I take a look at something like that, and now you take a look at someone like Tai Tuivasa. Tai Tuivasa, pressure fighter, big guy, big for the division, as in weight. He's gonna, he cuts down to get into the weight. He's also an ex-boxer. So he has technical skills when it comes to standing and striking. Now, the big part to me, what I was about to get into with the Stipe fight, is the fact of what he does with pressure. Now, there's been many times, more recently, that you've seen Dos Santos, when he gets pressure, he almost does an awkward run away with his head up, his chin up, and almost very hittable in those situations. And you're not going to see much of that, even with Ivanov, when he pressured, even with a guy of his low striking caliber, was able to land shots, was able to counter on Dos Santos. And that's the thing that Dos Santos years ago he would just pick guys apart. He would go out there and he would just dominate the fight on those kind of technical fights. And with a guy like Ivanov, he didn't do it against. And Stipe, yes, pressured him, but the pressure came so early that he does this very awkward, and I'm sure you guys have saw it, very awkward, turns his body up against the cage and runs. And the fact that he does not like being up against a cage, but continually finds himself up against the cage, with his back against the cage, where he's not able to move. He wants that distance so he can use his jab, throw some boxing, use the combinations. He does not want to get inside and make it dirty. Now, someone like Tuivasa wants to get inside, wants to make it dirty, wants to pressure. That's where situation, for me, when I'm taking a look at this fight, that I think that there's opportunities here for Tuivasa to win this fight. Now, I know there's been the cardio issues that people talk about, and they're saying, hey, can he get there? Is he able to get there? Now, against Arlovski, this was a step up for him again. This was definitely a step up for him. But I thought he looked good. He fought through some adversity. He was landing some big shots, and somehow Arlovski was taking some of those big shots. But early in that fight, Tuivasa had his nose completely broken. It was busted wide open. He was blowing blood out of his nose. It was a very tough spot for him to move forward. And yet he still made it through the 3 rounds. And I give him a lot of credit there, where a lot of people were knocking, was he gassing? Did he even win the fight? I thought without a doubt Tuivasa won that fight. It was a lot closer than it should have been, but I think it was that early adversity that he pushed through is a big learning experience, getting through the 3 rounds. This fight I don't see going 5 rounds. I mean, as much as we're looking at it as, hey, does Dos Santos pick him apart for 5 rounds? I don't think either guy's going to get that deep where it's going to matter. I really think one guy is going to knock out the other guy, and I think Tuivasa, with being on home soil, with the pressure, I think with the boxing, with the opportunity here being so big for him, I think there's opportunity for him to go out there and beat Jair Dos Santos. Now, the odds, you've got Tuivasa right now, he's plus 122, and then you've got Dos Santos somewhere around the minus 150, minus 142. I think plus odds on this fight are fantastic odds for Tuivasa. Now, yes, he's not the fully proven fighter that you want to be betting on. And again, this is a free play for me, and I'm going to be putting on my allotted amount of money for this event. Somewhere around the 10 to 15% of it will be on this fight and on possibly a parlay, mixing, him with my best bet play or Usman, kind of jumbling those up together with those 15%. Rest of it will be going on my best bet play. So for me here, I think there's value to have exposure on Tuivasa here. And another big thing for me here is the fact that the way that Dos Santos now looks after all of USADA testing. Now, and I know there was all those things going on. Was he juicing? Was he not? And whatever it may be. But there's no doubt that he looks different. Now, I'm not saying that he's out of shape, but he was a monster. Not too long ago, only a couple years ago, he was a monster. And now he took some time off, and now he's coming back. He seems a little gun-shy when he's in there. He's running more from tight exchanges. There's just a lot of questions there. I think that a guy that's a rising star that the UFC wants to win in Tuivasa, I really believe they want him to win, that this is a great spot for the young blood to come forward. So I think that Tuivasa, at anywhere from, around plus 122, plus 125, good odds on him, having some exposure. I believe that Tai Tuivasa will get the victory in the main event on Fight Night 142. And again, we have our our best bet play. That is for purchase on Wagertalk. Check it out. Link is down below. Again, appreciate all of you that have been making the purchase. This year, we are 27-12 on our best bet play, plus 25.24 units for the year. So we are on a roll. We're winning money. That play has consistently been coming in for us. Again, 70%. And we are having all of our best bet plays are on fighters, minus 190 and lower, and all the underdogs that we've been hitting. Again, we are 6-2 out of our last 8, and 4 of those 6 were underdog plays. So really having a great year. And again, do not forget to subscribe, like, head kick the bell icon, get involved with Fight Club TV. And this is Mr. UFC Vegas, Fight Club TV.